Hello, everybody, and good morning. My name is Ricardo Cabrera, and I am the Operations Manager at the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Boulder County. And today we have back our guest, J.R. Crow. J.R. is Coffee with J.R. is his business, and he is a professional speaker. He's a mental health, diversity, and inclusion trainer. And welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, doing good, thank you. And thanks for coming back. We've already done one interview in the past, and we're doing a second and a third one later on. So stay focused and stay here so you can see what JR has to share. Today, he's going to talk about intervention tools and in his take on overcoming hate and discrimination, and practical support tools to overcome racism and sexism. I look forward to this. This is going to be really interesting. So before we get started, JR, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am, oh, by the way, before I start, thank you so much, Ricardo, for inviting me for this, another opportunity working with you all. Of course, I want to thank the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Boulder County, it has been fun working with you. So I'm doing well. I'm excited about life now because 3 weeks ago, I was in Miami vacationing, and 2 weeks from now, I'm going to Spain. So I can't complain about life. I'm just excited that we are able to travel again. I'm able to explore the world. So it'll be my first time to Spain. So I'm very, very interested. Very excited, and what I shared last time is that last 4 countries, 4 countries I've been to, they are all Spanish-speaking countries. So I'm continuing the trend of continuing visiting Spanish-speaking countries. So
yeah, and you're going to get to practice your Spanish that you've been learning, right?
Exactly. Yes. Wish me luck.
Good luck. Well, Spain is a beautiful country. Amazing people. The food is above and beyond. You're going to have the best food ever, and I hope you enjoy it. So,
well, thank you.
So, with that, JR, let's get started. Tell us about the intervention tools that you have to offer. And I love the idea that you're going to share, down to earth, practical tools that we can use when we find ourselves in a racism or sexism situation, right? So you're going to talk about when it's actually happening, how can we manage it, right?
Yes. So cool. Yeah. So let me go start out with a simple story. When COVID hit, it was around this time last year. I live in pretty diverse neighborhood in Denver. I live in Capitol Hill. So I went to my local grocery store down the street. And guess what? I was walking down the aisle in the store. This big white dude literally bumped into my shoulder. And I look around like, what the hell? And he bumped into my shoulder and literally said this. He said, go back to where you're from. Because this whole COVID-19, the whole Chinese virus, this whole racism. And of course, when that happened, I was frightened. I was scared. I was, I fear my own safety. I love going out for walks. So now, I was like, should I go out for walks now? I have this anxiety. And on top of that, there's this kind of this shaming to that, is this my fault? Maybe it's me. So my experience at the grocery store is just one of thousands of encounters that marginalized people have experienced. When I say marginalized people, I mean that people of color, Hispanic, Asian, Blacks, LGBTQ folks, females, indigenous people, immigrants, you name it. This, what I experienced is something that marginalized people have experienced on daily, weekly, monthly, year basis, whether it's racism, sexism, homophobia, you name it. So, So what can we do? So we probably know that a lot of our friends, our colleagues, that are marginalized people, our family member, have gone through this very similar experience. And maybe we, as stand-up citizens, when we witness these type of experiences, we want to do something. And studies have shown that a lot of time, like I said, I'm sure you remember data, a lot of time that when a person that has experienced harassment, disrespectful behaviors, 79% of them wished someone would help. Unfortunately, only 25% of them said that someone had actually stepped in and help. And I've been doing this type of training, this type of workshop for over a year now. I always put out a poll asking people that like, what are some common reasons that you might decide not to intervene, not to step in? And every single time, 80% of them say that I might make things worse. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
Same here. A lot of times I'm an introvert. I'm like, yes, I'm a professional speaker because I love speaking. But in my real life, I'm shy. I'm introvert. So when I actually see something happening, most of the time I get nervous. I don't know what to do. I kind of freeze. And it's normal because this is part of human experience that we don't know what to do. And sometimes even when my rational mind kicks in, say, okay, I need to do something, but I don't know. So today, the tools that I'm going to share with you, are some of the practical, simple tools that we can use to intervene and disrupt disrespectful and microaggressive behavior. Because the reality is that there's no one way, or the right way, or the perfect way to intervene. In fact, there are other actions that we can take that are less confrontational while still taking care of ourselves, our relationships, and our own mental health. If you're afraid to intervene directly, maybe try indirect form of intervention. Even if you're new to your organization, or if you are not in a management or leadership position, you still can make a difference and provide support. So I'm going to share my screen and share with you some of these tools. And so overall, I just call it overcome hate and discrimination. And the 6 tools, so normally I just ask this question. So the 6 tools are ask/repeat, express, direct, document, refer, and support. And I'm going to fly through these 6 tools really, really fast. So the first one is ask and repeat, meaning that ask for clarification, for more information, or repeat back what is said. Like, what do you mean? Well, can you elaborate? I don't understand your joke. By asking or repeat it back, you give an opportunity for the person to reflect, to catch, and to check on their comments. For example, one time in college, I cracked a very insensitive joke, thinking that I was cool, I was funny. And my friend, she literally repeated back to me. And the moment she repeated back to me, I realized that, oh my God, how stupid and disrespectful I was. So here are some practical ways or things that you can say to ask or repeat back. If I hear you correctly, you say boom, boom. That's it. Again, this is not confrontational. You just ask a question. You just repeating back. The second one is what we call express. Express your feeling with discomfort, setting standard by letting the perpetrator know that this type of language is not welcome here, especially in the workplace. The key thing about express is using I statement. It's not direct or confrontational. It's about letting others know that the impact or their language is causing uneasiness to your emotional states and well-being. And I bet you it's also causing uneasiness to other people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So here are some of the ways that you can express yourself very directly. I feel uncomfortable with this joke. I don't want to be part of this conversation. Just simply say that. Again, the key word here is use I statement.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is what we call direct. Challenge the stereotype by calling it out. This is the most direct. You call out as it is. And I'm going to briefly introduce you the idea of call out and call in to challenge. So call out, if it's a stranger, maybe you can use call out. Call out is you literally calling that person out right there, right now.
Wow.
Saying that you're acting very disrespectfully, you're being a sexist, you're being racist. It's not funny at all. Call in, again, depends on your relationship. If you know the person, maybe it could be your coworker, it could be your cousin. You can invite the person to a conversation by asking that person to step aside, explain to that person why it is disrespectful and inappropriate, and hopefully have a real and learning conversation with that individual. Again, depending on your relationship with that person, your emotional state, and the circumstances, call-in could be better. It could be more productive options because call-in has this little bit more welcome attitude, like let's work something out. And remember that most of the time that individuals said these microaggressive, racist, sexist phrases or like gay jokes, done so reactively. They might have heard those from their buddies. Well, maybe they watched a YouTube video and thought saying those things might be witty and funny.
Right.
But they never really took the time to reflect and process on the implication of these phrases and jokes. And next is document. Document is more for work. And also it can be like a track record. Because guess what? Work can get busy and you can get pulled from different directions. After a while, you might not remember exactly what happened and decide to let it go. Thus, it's important to write it down right away, even on a piece of paper or on your phone. Because if these type of behaviors are repeated, especially in the workplace, at least you have solid documentation to present it to HR or to higher up. So this is very, very important. And, if with someone that again, we forget things, but if you have documented, you can show it to people, say, hey, I noticed that there's a pattern. You like to make fun of homeless people a lot. That's not cool. So, and the next one, the fifth one is what we call refer and delegate. Depending on your comfort level, mental health state, you don't have to intervene directly by yourself. Maybe another coworker that is close with the perpetrator, and you think it is going to be much more efficient and productive to have that other coworker to intervene. Or if the perpetrator is a manager, maybe you can delegate and ask another manager of equal level to intervene. Of course, you have HR, or maybe even ask a support ERG, depends on your organization size. Some larger corporation, they have employee resource group, and they are very active. They have a lot of resources. To some have a lot of resources. So the idea behind refer and delegate is that you don't have to do it. Once you observe something, again, this is not snitching or something. No, it's not. It's about supporting the victim. So all right, the last one is what we call support. Always checking with the victim and offer support afterwards. Even if you decide to document, what we call make sure to make eye contact with the victim initially to give reassurance can provide and boost confidence with the victim. Because when this whole disrespectful interaction happening, a lot of time the perpetrator wants attention. And if you stop looking at the perpetrator and look at the victim, you are literally taking the negative energy, attention away from the perpetrator. Because you want to, or another example, again, your safety is number one. If you feel safe enough, maybe you can walk closer to the victim and have your back against the perpetrator. Again, that's a way to diffuse tension. So there's different ways to do so. So, and another thing I recommend is called empower work, and this is more for the professionals, is that they have trained volunteers to help. You can contact them, so they can refer you to other professional resources at like HR, because I know some, especially smaller organizations, they might not have enough HR resources. So empower work can help. Maybe even larger corporation that the HR might not be as effective. Again, this is a resource that I highly recommend. So in mental health, well, I often say that your safety is number one. Not only your physical safety, your emotional, psychological safety. Thus, we all react differently. As a bystander, as a friend, as a coworker. So if you decide to engage with ask and repeat or express, do so in a non-aggressive way, but assertive. Avoid being condescending, because it can just create more friction.
Right.
If you decide to be direct, it can maybe use call in. Pull the perpetrator aside and talk to the person instead of in front of them, in front of others. Avoid embarrassing the person, because that person might get very defensive or might get aggressive. And you might miss an opportunity to really have a decent dialogue about diversity and inclusion. And the last thing that I want to emphasize is that being a bystander is always about taking care and support the person that's being disrespected at. So whether your intervention method is direct or refer, please make sure to follow up afterwards with the victim. So these are the 6 intervention tools, and hopefully, it can be useful for you, for whoever's watching, again, I'm talking about baby steps, And I think that I want to emphasize, focus on like, there's not one way or right way.
Right.
Whatever which tool you feel the best for you.
Yeah.
That is the perfect way for you.
Wow. This is awesome, JR. I mean, actually, and I love this, the fact that we have actual real tools that we can use practically day to day. And also the fact that, I mean, you have 6 tools and we're all different. Like you were saying, you're shy. I think I like to say that I'm a social introvert, because I do like to be around people a lot. But, if I'm in a big place, every once in a while, it's like, I got to get out of here, because I get full pretty quick sometimes, with too many people. But anyway, I have some questions from here. You shared a lot of great information, and guys, go back and look at the video and the explanations, because there was a lot of information. And like you said, I'm sure that I will relate to some of the approaches, and somebody else will relate to a different type of approach. And we probably saw like about 25 to 30 different things you could do in this situation, depending on the approach that you take. And one works for you, and take on that one and use it. So here's my first question. So the scenarios can happen, the racism, sexism scenarios can happen in different locations. And some of your examples were like business focused inside of work, but they can also happen, in a store or at home and on the streets. And this principles still apply to all this, wherever you're at, right? Whether you're the person being victimized, let's use that word, or the bystander watching, you can still interject if you're the bystander, or you can defend yourself by using these techniques or tools if you are being, the minority, the victim at the point. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And let me just show you one scenario that I often use, and based on my own experience, unfortunately,
right?
At a grocery store, A
Mm-hmm.
man start yelling anti-Asian slurs on the Asian lady. In this case, like it was me, but I just flip it to Asian lady.
Mm-hmm.
How can you intervene and provide support? You can document, take the photo and video. So when the security, when the police show up, you have something to prove. With support, make eye contact with the Asian lady to acknowledge her, maybe walk close to her, take the attention away from the perpetrator and refer, maybe call 911, or walk to the front to ask a store clerk or security to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
Or if one time I gave a workshop to a lot of more gung-ho people, and all of them select number 4 directly. Tell me I'm just being racist, and which is awesome. Whatever you feel the most that's good for you. If you feel comfortable, if you feel, please do so. And of course, the 6 intervention tool with these 4 options are conditional, meaning that something else, meaning that again depends on the circumstances, depends on the situation. And if you have better tools, or if you have your own techniques, please share with us. Again, one size doesn't fit all.
Right. So for example, I mean, some events, let's call them an event, right? Something is happening, and some of them are big, and like violent, and some of them are, yelling or whatever, pointing fingers, and some of them are very subtle. Some of them, people will do or say something, and most people won't even notice. But it's still victimizing the minority in one way or another. And again, it could be at a store, it could be at work, it could be at a party with your friends. So do you still use the same tools in the same way, or sometimes is it best, because my thought came, what if I confront this person and I use one of the tools? I may inadvertently be escalating what was something that could have just been brushed off and, let it pass. What do you think?
Exactly. So thank you for that question. So first of all, the foremost is your safety is number 1. So a lot of the time, if you do see if there's an actual fighting, weapons, get the hell out there. Call 911. Your safety is number 1. So kind of back to your question is that these 6 tools are more for like non-crisis situation.
Okay.
So when you intervene, and a lot of time, and based on the study, it showed that again 90% of the time the perpetrator would back down. So there's that 10% of people might make things worse. And that is when you need to assess. So when things get worse, maybe again you need to ask someone to step in. We'll call 911. Again, your safety is number 1. And this is closely, again, we only have like 10-20 minutes. I like share with you this. And then there is another component to this training is that whole de-escalation training. It's what to say, what not to say. Right.
Well, and sometimes and I found it really interesting that you mentioned that you can video the stuff. Of course, if you're in the heat of the moment, you're not going to say, hold on a second, I'm going to get my phone out. But if you're a bystander, you can. And that is actually something that is also recommended if you find yourself in a police situation or on ICE, for example, if they're doing an ICE anything or the police is doing something towards a minority, because they are also guilty of this, whether they know it or not, that you record it and you save it for the potential future, clarification or need.
Exactly, yes. I think that the person that videoed George Floyd, I might be wrong. One of those people that video the police brutality, he won some award. The teenager that did that. Yeah, I forgot. I think most likely the George Floyd one incident tragedy. So take advantage of our technology. I know I love watch cat videos, but we can like do something amazing with our phone too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's easy. I mean, you can, you have to be careful, especially if there's the police around, because you don't want to. You want to tell the police, I'm going to reach for my phone when you're reaching into your pocket. So there's no confusion. But you could also just tell your phone out loud, start recording, and it will. So you can record audio, which is also just as powerful.
Yes.
Without having to, do too much movement. So anyway, let's not get off track here. I have one last question for you before we finish. And by the way, I'm going to put, JR, all your information down here in the description, contact information, and a little blurb about what you do. So if people want to talk to you more about any of this, because it's obviously a big topic, and you do this for a living. You're a motivator, you're a speaker, and you talk about this to companies and individuals and whatnot. And if you guys want to learn more, you'll know how to get a hold of JR right down here. So the last question I have is, there's also this type of discrimination, from the bosses, from, not only friends and the public, but it also happens at work. The question specifically is small businesses. What if I work in a place where there's only 3 of us in the office, or it's a restaurant and I work in the kitchen and nobody ever sees me, but yet my boss is taking advantage or abusing something that, that shouldn't happen. What, besides, how can you handle that situation? I mean, because these people are afraid. A lot of times these guys don't want to lose their job. It's their only job and they don't have a second option. So there's a conflict there for the individual, but how can you approach that?
So thank you for the question. So there's a couple levels. One is what I can start out assessing. Assessing meaning that, yes, using that a small company of 5 people, maybe the perpetrator is the owner or coworker. And just kind of assess your own safety, your own mental health. How much does this bother you?
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, as I hear you, sometimes depends on your neighbor, where your industry, you really need this job. At the same time, it's going to be so detrimental to your own safety, your physical safety, your mental health. Maybe we need to talk about a longer game plan. Maybe set yourself a goal that, okay, I'm going to be here just 3 more months. I'm going to move on. I'm going to start looking for other jobs, So there's a couple of levels. So assess. And then there's another one that I like to say is that, again, the example I used earlier is that, like, maybe the owner or the coworker, they say these things because they think it is funny.
Right.
They probably have no idea the impact or the detrimental impact could have on you. And they could be the most nicest people. So maybe, and again, it could be feel awkward in a weird small company, like there's only 3 or 5 of you. At the same time, again, part of this assess is that maybe set a time, have a one-on-one conversation, like prep your conversation. Call me. I will help you to prep this guy. Maybe call Ricardo. Help. Ask someone to help you to prep the meeting and have a one-on-one conversation with your coworker or your boss. Use this as a learning opportunity. And of course, let's hope that they get it. They say, "Oh my God, I didn't know that I have crossed the lines." And then that, okay, this is a company. This is the people that I want to work with. But if they start getting defensive, then your answer that, okay, you probably need to start finding an exit strategy. So, and then my last suggestion is call that empowered work.
Right.
Text them, call them to see them. They can give you referral resources, connect you with local HR or lawyer, HR, like nonprofit organization that support employees. So these are the other options.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a key word, because we always have options. And, work is important. And sometimes that is the number one, it's important for us. So, there are always options. And here's one thing that I've noticed in recently, in the past 12 to 16 months, is that the consciousness of the community towards these things is becoming elevated. So people are aware and they want to learn and change and do the right thing. So I think that using the tools, the 6 tools that you mentioned, even in that situation, may be helpful, because sometimes owners or perpetrators don't know that they don't know what they're doing. They just don't know that they don't know. And they just need somebody to say, yeah, hey, have you considered this? You know, do you know what's going on? And they will, and they may very well just solve and elevate, you know, not elevate the situation, the employment situation for the better, just with one conversation.
Mhm.
So excellent. Well, JR, these are incredible tools that you just shared with us. And I hope you guys that are watching, you know, go back and read them again. They're gold. They're key, and they're awesome for you and for everybody around you to help, you know, the intervention. So our next video, we're going to talk about what we can do after an event has happened to help each other. So today we talked what we do while it's happening, if you're the victim or the observer. And then on the next video, we're going to talk about what do you do after the fact to help each other, mental health focus. So thank you again, JR. But before we go, I have one surprise question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So what is your favorite sound or noise?
My favorite sound or noise. Oh my God. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, you probably can't.
It's a little out of focus.
Yes, it's a chim. So I like, you know, those things that you hanging.
Yeah.
Yes. So I love those sounds.
Right. Yeah. The ones that go with the wind and they make this incredible nice sounds.
Yes.
Beautiful. Very calming. I love them too.
Yes.
Well, with that, thank you guys. Thank you very much. And until next time.
Yes. Thank you all.